Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out, your global look at news from Taiwan. I'm Tiffany Wong. Since China imposed a sweeping national security law in 2020, shutting down pro-democracy activity in Hong Kong, tens of thousands of Hong Kongers have since fled the city, fearing political repercussions. Many of them have sought refuge in the UK to find hope and a new life, and yet have been met with legal challenges and continued attempts by China to spy on, intimidate, and censor those it views as dissidents abroad. Today, to discuss Hong Kongers who have been fleeing political repression, we're joined by Michael Mo, a postgraduate researcher at Newcastle University and a pro-democracy activist from Hong Kong who has been living in the UK since 2021. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So it's been almost 4 years since you've moved to the UK. Could you tell us about that day and what were the thoughts going on in your mind then?
So I've been tipped off by one of my friends that the police might go after me within days. So pretty much I've got like 48 hours or so to pack my bags and then simply just buy a one-way ticket on a British Airways airline flight to the UK. So there's a specific reason for that airline is because there was experience that pro-democracy activists on like Hong Kong-based airlines have been caught within the cabin just before the plane depart. So that is like a specific reason for taking that flight. So shortly after I arrived, I claimed asylum, and then it's a long process of like, it took me 2.5 years to get the main interview and get my claim accepted. So it's a long wait. So that is it's a frustrating experience for sure. But I'm glad that I'm now here in Taiwan, getting back my passport and then could continue my activism, not just only in the UK, but abroad.
And so in the past, even before this, did you have any sort of close calls with the police in Hong Kong? Were you afraid that you would have to leave anytime earlier than 2021?
So it's always been a fear in my mind, because like ever since I've got arrested in September 2019, the police released me on bail, and it's always been like either a yes or a no that they would prosecute me. So it's a long, almost 2-year wait, like on what is a guessing game, like whether they would go after you or not. And it's always depend on first the political atmosphere back in that time, because it was a very brief period that then Chief Executive Carrie Lam would like to call for some kind of calmness, even across the whole administration. But the things changed very rapidly ever since the Beijing was full steam ahead on rolling out the national security law. And ever since the law was in place, I've seen people who were, particularly the protest organizers, who were arrested on the same reasons as I do, have been prosecuted pretty much month by month, one by one. So yeah, so it would be, I was just counting the days back then, and that's what it is.
Could you describe a little bit why had you been arrested that time?
So in July 2019, there was a huge anti-protest, or we call it a mob, attacked random people passing by in a suburb in Hong Kong, and also pro-democracy protesters. We believe that those people, gangs, tribes, mobs, pretty much from some kind of villages in the new territories. In response to that, my friends and I launched a protest several days after to show our solidarity and our strength that we're not backing down. Yeah, just resisting that kind of mobs and attacks that is orchestrated or facilitated by might be people or entities across the border. But that protest hasn't got the permission from the authorities, and it was deemed as an illegal protest. So that's why shortly after the protests, the police just arrested me and my friend.
Thank you for sharing. So what was it like when you got to the UK? You said it was about a year before you were able to get asylum approved?
2 years and a
2
half.
years.
Yeah, 2 years and a half.
What was that process like?
So it is quite a black box for most of the asylum claimants. So first of all, you have to claim the asylum at the border. So pretty much at Heathrow Airport or which other airports that you arrived. And it would take around 6 to 8 hours, depending on whether you need an interpreter or not, to get the initial questionnaire completed by the border officer. And the duty officer of the shift from the border force would decide whether he or she would grant a person a immigration bail. So pretty much you are living on immigration bail, and then, well, of course, they would give you the identity document called the ARC application registration card. So you can use that to identify yourself within the UK, but you can't use that for work for at least a year. So after you've got your immigration bail, depending on how much resources you have, then you may have to apply for temporary asylum accommodation. And then once you get there, you still have around 1 month to do your preliminary questionnaire, the PIQ. So I spent like 1 month within my own Airbnb rooms to work it out, buy a second-hand printer to print it by myself, because at that time it was really hard to find a lawyer to get help on a pro bono basis. So I just did everything myself.
So what were you hoping for when you first went to the UK?
I was empty. At the time. I didn't know what to do. So I spent almost 2 months traveling around across the UK, going on hiking, and used that time to get my tranquility back and to think of what to do. So eventually I chose to apply for scholarships and conducting researches at university. So because I couldn't work for the first year when I was in the UK, so I think getting a scholarship to study is one of the few ways to do.
Were there any other challenges while you're in the UK in terms of finding community or, just living in the UK for you?
The life in the UK is fine for me, I would say, because the system, the way of life, or even the traffic in the UK is more or less the same as in Hong Kong. We share the same type of traffic lights, pedestrian lanes, zebra crossing. So it's kind of a way of a sense of home away from home, in a way. So I measured my challenges when getting myself resettled in the UK. I think it's a bit of struggle, but it's lucky enough compared to other Hong Kongers pretty much having a tougher language barrier for them in a way. And most of them may not have visited the UK before they applied for the BNO visa. So I was lucky enough to visit the UK beforehand.
China has recently announced plans to have a mega embassy in London. And there are fears that it could be used to carry out transnational repression on the overseas Hong Kong and Chinese communities. Do you or any of the Hong Kongers, living in the UK, have any worries about staying long-term there now?
I think for the mega embassy, It was actually a plan launched back in the conservative government in 2017, around 2017. And it was blocked by the local council, the Taiwan Helmets Council, because of the pending permissions that didn't satisfy the council themselves. And so it was in limbo for quite some time. And it was only brought up by the Labour government ever since they've been re-elected to lead the 10 Downing Street. So it is quite controversial compared to time back in 2017, because we have now over 181,000 Hong Kongers resettled in the UK via the biennial visa scheme. So the Hong Kong communities definitely afraid of it, of the mega embassy, because like there are no details about like how many personnel would be within the overall mint, the proposed mega embassy site, and how much activity would the Chinese embassy enhance in surveillance, doxing, and even intimidation in some times. Of course, they would not do it by themselves. They would do it, they might influence or lead the organizations that is under their controls. There's definitely that kind of like physical surveillance, tailing, doxing going on. Even if like ordinary Hong Kongers trying to learn forklifting, the machines, to find a new job in the UK, their pictures, their identities were exposed in a pro-Beijing group on Facebook. So you see not just high-profile activists or ordinary activists would be affected. Even ordinary people who emigrated to the UK would be affected too.
How has the Hong Kong overseas community been able to continue pro-democracy activity and activism abroad?
It is a tough call, I would say, because of the funding cuts from the US government for now, and also the economic challenges in the UK. So the resources for the Hong Kong diaspora community to continue the activism across the world is going down. Having said that, I think there are still a lot of things that could be done, specifically those advocacy work that doesn't involve a lot of resources, that not being the local and the national authorities in the UK to get better aware of the extent of transnational repression, and also all other kinds of like high-level lobbying work, like to the UN to expose what the Hong Kong and the Beijing authorities did to us. And the most important thing is to establish a link between Hong Kong diaspora community and Hong Kongers who still remain in the UK and conducting pro-democracy activism in Hong Kong, to protect them, ensure they're safe, and to let them know that they have not been forgotten and we are having their back.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was great to have you on our show today.
Once again, thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching Zoom In, Zoom Out. For more stories from TaiwanPlus News, you can follow our social media. I'm Tiffany Wong. Thank you and see you next time.